to Of the Publishing Persuasion. Thank you for joining us on this amazing episode. I tell you what, each time they just get better and better, and that has nothing to do with us. It's just pure luck. I'm kidding. Everything has to do with my amazing co-host.
Way to lay it on thick. But I am going to take that.
Yes, it's all you, Melanie, because you are a light in my life. And I just know you're always going to have something wise and profound to say. And so anytime like any of our guests come on and they say something that is deep, I'm always like, okay, Melanie, it's up to you.
No pressure.
I'm always looking at you like, okay, she's coming with it. I know it. And you always do. You always do. So Melanie, how are you today?
I do not know that I am deserving of this praise, but my head is going to get so big I will float away. And no, I am good. Oh man, I binge watched season 1 of Bridgerton so hard this week, and I have no regrets because I had my period, and we all know that period is your key to complete and utter doing nothing with no guilt, right?
Amen. Amen.
That's how it should be anyway. That's the rule in my head, in my house. So yeah, I binged the whole thing over like 2 days. And I have the cure for you. You know how you were like, what do I do now? What do I watch after Bridgerton? The answer is watch season 1 again. Because that's what I'm doing now. Slower, less rapidly, but slowly making my way through season 1. And it's good. I think I forget a lot. Other than that.
Did you watch the second season yet?
Yeah, so I binge watched the second season and then felt like my life was over. So I'm rewatching season 1.
It's so good. Like, it's just that angst, man. It's just, we just need it in our life. And who would have thought we needed it so desperately?
Totally. How have you been?
I've been good. I mean, I've just been bombarding you and Clara with synopses. There's like writing a synopsis is hard.
And I am just gonna say, dear listeners, that I have been privy to not 1 but 3 magical Montoya original synopses, and I am alight with the burning desire to read all of them. So you better get writing. Seriously, you have nailed it. I am just like, if you were ever in doubt of your creative ability, you just look over what you have come up with. 3 beautiful, unique worlds in like 2 days. I don't know how long you're working on it. For me, it feels like 2 days because that's what I'm seeing. But damn, girl.
No, I thank you. I honestly, I appreciate you saying that so much. And like Para's, like what she has to say, just always, because honestly, writing those synopses, I don't even know how to say the word, writing them out. Okay. Yeah. Writing them out. I was just like, is this all just like literal trash? Because, it's like when you're writing it out and then, but not really feeling all of the goods behind it, just writing those basic plot points. Thank you for sending me those, by the way. You're just like, is there magic to this? And so hearing you guys both like be excited about them, I was just like, okay, thank the Lord, thank the writing gods, because it's like kind of nerve-wracking after one book is liked. Like, is that it? I don't want it to be that's it. And so
it's just like another daunting part of the process. And I can't even imagine the pressure you feel right now But the thing that I always want to remind all of us on this journey is even your synopsis, you're comparing it to your polished Sinner's Isle synopsis, which how many hundreds of times I rewrote my query letters and synopsis. Like, and if you're going to compare it to a raw idea that's just been birthed out of your big, beautiful brain, like you need to think about it as like a raw, completely like unwashed, like it's just fresh from the womb, Angela. Too graphic? But like your idea is fresh from the womb, and it's already so beautiful. You know what I mean? And it is going to change. And I find that little quick beat sheet so helpful to just like, but it just like gives you those very basic story structure, but it doesn't always stay like that. You might find that halfway through your entire beat sheet changes. And I've had that where I started with one main idea running through the story, and then as I wrote, it solidified into something else, you know? So it's just, you know, it's part of your journey, and you're starting with something so solid, but don't compare it again to the end product of Sinner's Isle, which has been through now, what, years of editing? Yeah?
Yeah, like a billion edits.
Yeah.
I'd say give or take a billion.
Why do we do it to ourselves though? You know, like it's
I don't know. But see, this is what I was waiting for, is your wisdom again. And you just brought it. So thank you.
I think it only comes from the need to remind myself 1,000 times a day of all these things. And like, I remind myself so often, I think it just comes out. So I'm glad that like my word vomits are helpful to people.
They are. It is funny though, like people are good at giving advice but also forget sometimes. So like I hear that all the time where you're just like, you know, giving tips, but got to remember them yourself. So I hear that. I believe it. I hear it. Thank you.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now? Anything? How's the book
I'm
going?
working on my paranormal rom-com Beyond Love. I feel good about it. I think it's much voicier than anything I've written before. Like, just letting all my sass and all my rude jokes come straight out onto the page. There are bruised vaginas and and I don't know, periods, and just letting it out on the page, Angela.
I love it. Honestly, I'm here for it because it's like, I love seeing, I mean, I've only read 2 of your books, but like, I love seeing the progression of, you know, like young adult into this new naughty, like fun, sassy side. And I am here for it. I love it.
Speaking of naughty, you got some very saucy DM today. Well, it wasn't really saucy so much, but I laughed so hard when I saw it, and I was just like, why is this still happening? Why?
I don't know. Here, do you want me to find it?
I want you to read it.
It's just ridiculous, I swear. Let me see where I can
slid into Fair Angela's DMs, and to be fair, if I were a man, I would slide. This just suddenly got very X-rated.
Yeah, I did. We're gonna have to put a little a warning.
Disclaimer, I'll have to put the explicit bar on YouTube. Read your DM because it's just so ridiculous. It makes me laugh so hard.
You know, and I have to say, I used to get these more often. Oh no, my phone just died.
I can read it from our chat.
Okay. That's funny. Yeah, literally my phone died. I use it too often apparently. But I used to get these like ridiculous like sugar daddy DMs. And when I got this, whenever it was this morning or whatever, I was just like, you know what? I'm putting this on. I'm blocking this guy and I'm going to put this on and just like I just want people to realize just how, like, just know.
I think that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I'm really impressed with you for just like sharing it and kind of like just being like, gross, this needs to stop. So I've got it here. Greetings, love
And
heart.
also, yeah, I was a little offended too, because like 2000, really?
As if they can afford you. So greetings, love heart. Well, I'm searching for steadfast and genuine sugar baby, loved up emoji, to deal with her needs, rent, and furthermore pay her week by week remittance of $2,000. I am sorry if this offends you, but I find you really attractive and I'd like you to be my sugar baby.
Yes, I was offended. I was greatly offended.
Yeah, I just don't know how people think it's still okay to send messages like this. And I would just love to know what they are expecting on the other side. Like, does anyone respond to these messages? I wish our show was live and we had callers. I would love to hear from anyone who's had an actual experience with reaching out to someone like this. Like,
Oh my gosh.
it's just gross, isn't it? It's gross.
It's really gross. It's really gross. Honestly, like, like I have so much to say about this because like it kind of just goes back to all the like cat calling and like all of these things that I just find so annoying.
Yeah.
And honest to goodness, I am like, no, I don't know how to say this. Like, okay, I am like, I have a body. You know what I mean? Like, I got a body. And like, and I can get like cat calls and all this stuff, and it annoys me so much. And a lot of the times it'll be men and their wives and kids will be in the next aisle over. And I just want to be like, what the hell? Yeah, it's just so gross.
That's wretched.
So not that I hate all men, but
there's definitely some very gross humans. And like actually back to Bridgerton and watching these like this toxic male culture of like a woman is a possession. I reckon it might have its roots in that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear it.
I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
Yeah, that one at least is funny to me. Like, I mean, it's gross, but it at least is funny. Like something to laugh at and just joke like 2K, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but no, in person in the shopping center, it's gross. I get a bit like fiery with stuff like that. Like I wouldn't stay quiet if I saw that happen to my friend in public. And it was like the uncomfortable thing of there's a family. I'd be like, keep your eyes in your head. Keep walking. Disgusting. Talk to your mother with that mouth.
Well, but it only sounds good with your accent in particular. So like, yeah, like I you'd have to come here and do it for me from now on.
I've also always been like, I haven't had to deal with much of that, and I am like a-okay with that. Like I was always I'm more like, I'm curvier now, but especially in high school, I was very straight figured. I was like relieved, you know, like because it's shit. It's like you don't want to have to feel like, yeah, there's still a lot to be done with the whole Me Too.
Yeah, we've got work to go. I mean, honestly, that's why a lot of times I do wear like baggier clothes just because it's like,
yeah, and you shouldn't have to. You should be allowed to get the Bahama Mamas out and not be afraid of like getting like victimized.
But and I have to say that I think a lot of why I wrote Sinner's Isle was this like I needed to get this out, and I needed, you know, maybe spoilerish, but I needed to destroy it all. You know, so that's a little deep, but that's where it all stemmed from, honestly. I think was just like just feeling gross sometimes about being a woman, you know, and then just wanting to dismantle all of that. So
no, I got chills from that because it needs to happen more. And I think that the men need to be encouraged to have, because it tends to be the men, like without meaning to like specify, but you don't really see women catcalling on the street unless they lick it up and then, you know, bitches be cray. There is nothing quite so frightening as like a group of drunk hens night girls. It's like a whole thing, right? But no, like definitely conversations need to happen more. And we suddenly got deep there, but I'm for it. Like, you know, it should, especially for like, I think of like the YA age, because that's when you're kind of like the most vulnerable to that. I think like, so I think it's awesome bringing it up and just like, you shame them in your stories, because the more we laugh at it and be like, because I think that's one way that you can get your power back of like, ooh, this is gross, like this is not acceptable. And it's one way you can just kind of, you know,
give it to them.
You go, you good thing. But speaking of good things, this episode with Clarabel, I just cannot wait for you all to hear it, because it is the goods.
No, honestly, Claribel is just one of those special humans. And during the interview, just listening to her kind of like open up about like where her journey started and kind of why, you just want to listen and like take it all in, take all of her advice in, and because she really is profound, honestly. Like, she really had so much to say. Okay, here, I'll read her bio. So, New York Times bestselling and award-winning author Claribel A. Ortega is a former reporter who writes middle grade and young adult fantasy inspired by her Dominican heritage. When she's not busy turning her obsession with 80s pop culture, magic, and video games into books, she's co-hosting her podcast, Bad Author Book Club, and helping authors navigate publishing with her consulting business, GIFGRRL, so GIFGRRL. Claribel is a Marvel contributor and has been featured in Buzzfeed, Bustle, Good Morning America, and Deadline. Claribel's debut novel, middle grade novel, Ghost Squad, is out now from Scholastic and is being made into a feature film. We didn't even ask this. Her forthcoming books include Witchlings by Scholastic and the graphic novel Frizzy, First Second. You can find her on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Claribel_Ortega and on her website at claribelortega.com. I highly suggest you go onto claribelortega.com because her website is legit. It is so cool. And you can take your Coven quiz on the website as well, which we talked all about during this interview. And if you haven't yet, you need to go and figure out which Coven from Witchlings you are a part of so we can fight you.
Exactly. Moth Coven.
Moth Coven. Oh, yeah.
Is that our official flap?
I think it is. I think it's happening.
It's happening. So can't wait. All of you are going to enjoy this episode so much, and here she is. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to change my background, but I got it.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Oh,
girl, thank you win. I love that.
That is perfect. For those who aren't seeing it, because you're just listening to it, Claribel has a Witchlings background and it is glorious. I have to say, I have been seeing everything Witchlings all over the place. Like, it has been so fun seeing all the promo. And I told Melanie before, I sent her the link earlier to do her Coven quiz. So we'll talk about that in a second.
So
But
exciting.
yeah, it's so freaking fun. So I'm so excited to have you on here and just talk all things Witchlings.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I saw today that you went into a bookstore and actually did some signing.
Yeah. So I'm doing sort of like an indie bookstore like signing tour, like of like, you know, the New York, Connecticut area. And today we went to, I want to say like 7 or 8 stores. And it was a whole production because my boyfriend drove us around. I live like an hour outside of New York City. So we left the house at like 7 in the morning. And if I sound a little froggy, that's because I literally just took a nap right before this. So we left the house at 7 in the morning. We met 2 other authors, Kat Cho and Ryan LaSala, and who we all wore witchling sweaters, and we just went to all these stores, and we made like 25 TikToks. It was a lot. And signed all these books, and it was just such a cool experience because I debuted in 2020, you know, so I didn't really get to do this, to like hop around to all these different places. And I was lucky enough to do the Barnes and Noble thing last year when my book was when Ghost Squad was the young reader pick. But this is the first time like a book is coming out and I'm getting to do all of these like in-person events and like going to bookstores and like making content and like bringing people along, and as opposed to just like me in my living room the entire time. So it's been really, really nice. I feel super grateful that I get to do this.
Oh, that just makes me so happy to hear, seriously.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
like, I know that there's still a lot going on in the world, but those little
Mm.
things, those little healing moments of you finally got to go and do author things, and that's everything. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really cool, and it also helps keep things in perspective because it's like I feel like a lot of times we do, and this is for like anything in life, not just for author stuff, but there's so much stuff that we like take for granted. I feel like something that's like as small as going to a bookstore to sign your book, because you know authors we love to move the goalposts to like what makes us happy. So it's really cool to just be like, I'm just happy to be here. Just happy to have this happen to me and have the opportunity to have this happen to me. Remember like what a blessing that is. And it's been really great. It's been hard not being like mushy and emotional the whole time.
Oh, for sure. I could only imagine. I would just probably be bawling the whole time. It's just like, I'm signing my book.
I still like spontaneously burst into tears just like at cafes and the city sometimes, because it's just like here in Melbourne we had like 7 lockdowns, like where you had like an hour
Yeah.
to be out, and it was like very strict. So like I think just go with it. You know what? Everyone understands at this point. Just let the emotions out, because it's cherishing those little moments, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like all the psychology of like what those things have done to us, you know, like having to stay inside and like the fear of like going back out and like doing all these things and like are we safe? And it's a lot. There's a lot to deal with, you know. There's a lot of sort of like baggage that goes along with you even during the happy moments. So it is overwhelming. I would certainly not judge an author if I saw them crying at any moment, at any time.
100%. Well, and I love that it's a middle grade book, because when I think of the pandemic and all, you know, us adults had to go through, you know, the kids had to go through just, you know, so much. And so to see this book and just to see, you know, the whole thing and all the, you know, the excitement around it, you know, it gives young readers something to look forward to. It gives them something to go out and get the little toad, you know, enamel pin, you know, like it's just something to make them so happy and excited. And I just think this book came out at just just the perfect time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. I'm like, if we had a hard time dealing with it, how must kids be feeling? Like they don't always know how to express themselves, but it must feel so overwhelming and so hard because they must feel so helpless. And like, I think the hard thing about being a kid is that sometimes the answers can feel so obvious to you, but adults just don't do the right thing a lot of times, and watching the adults around you not do the right thing and you being sort of like not being able to do anything, and the kids are still probably the most affected people during all of this because a lot of kids still haven't been able to get vaccinated, or they still have to be in school, and a lot of them are getting sick, and it must be so difficult. It must be so difficult being able to give them even a little bit of happiness or joy or like peace is all I can ask for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Can you tell us a little bit about Witchlings, what it's about?
Sure. So, Witchlings is about 12-year-old Seven Salazar, which is, if you have the book, the little girl with the purple hoodie on the front. And she is a big old nerd, and she wants nothing more to be placed in House Hyacinth, which she's deemed like the coolest coven, with her best friend Poppy, who's like super popular. And she wants to be a famous reporter when she's older. She's got everything planned out. But when the night of the Black Moon ceremony comes around, she's actually deemed a spare witch, which means she doesn't belong in any coven. She's a leftover, and there's 3 leftovers every Black Moon ceremony, and she just so happens to be a leftover along with her bully Valley Pepperhorn and Thorn LaRue, who's the new girl in town with a terrible secret, who has a little bit too much enthusiasm for Seven's liking. And Seven pulls a Katniss, and she invokes something called the impossible task, and she's like, if we don't do this, we're going to lose our powers, because their coven actually doesn't seal, which means they'll be forever witchlings and have no power at all. So they get the impossible task, and that is to kill a night beast, which is a legendary wolf-like monster. And if they aren't able to do it, they will be turned into a trio of toads.
Okay,
I love that so much.
I'm just over here hanging off your every word. Like, I kid you not. I am so here for all of that. It just sounds so wonderful and exactly what I want to be reading right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really fun. It sort of mixes a lot of like whimsical, funny things that I really like with like a darker, sort of scarier underbelly, which is like my favorite kind of fantasy. Like, oh, this is really fun, but also if you step in the wrong direction, something will eat you. So please be careful.
I love it. Honestly, I mean, I've already pre-ordered, so I'm ready to go.
Thank you very much.
It honestly, it sounds amazing, and I just can't freaking wait.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of really great early response to it. People are already cosplaying the characters, which is wild to me. Someone dyed their hair pink and was like, we used Valley as inspiration, and like which is the pink-haired girl on the cover, and I'm just like, what? That's wild. Anytime anyone does something like with your book in their like real life, it's very mind-blowing.
Well, it sounds like a very immersive world, and I'm so here for that. And like Angela said, she sent me the quiz today for what coven I'm in. Coven?
Yeah, Coven.
And
yeah.
I need to know about my coven, Moss Coven. Can you tell me?
Oh,
like,
sure.
I feel very proud to be part of Moss Coven right now.
Yeah, so I would say, as a shorthand, Moth House is really like the goths, I would say, of the world. They're sort of like very into anything that has to do with ghosts and death and like being gloomy and sad and writing poetry, but they're also like very emotional, and they're very kind-hearted. I would probably say they're maybe the least popular of the covens in terms of like the members, but they're also like really cool. They're cool in a way that like the other kids don't get yet, basically.
I'm so here for that. And Angela is also Moth
Oh,
House,
cool,
and
cool.
I
I'm
have to
surrounded by
say,
goths right now.
Yeah.
it's just so fun. And like, even, you know, at 35, I'm just like living for the fact that I'm in Moth House and my friend is in Moth House, and I'm not going to have to go to magic school without a friend in my class.
Oh, I love that. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be in a coven. And like, I think the feeling of belonging, us humans love to be like categorized, like take quizzes and like put me in a box and like tell me what to do and who I am, what's my personality. But I really love it because I think it's a lot of fun, and I pulled from my friends' personalities and the people around me, and that's how I sort of developed the covens, and using different sort of mechanisms too, not just like based on my friends, but yeah, it's been really fun to see how intense people have been about the covens. Like immediately, our house is the best house, everybody else is terrible, like fighting other people. Like Moth House on Twitter is very intense.
Moth House represent. I hear you. My wings flutter.
Yeah, it's been really fun. One of my favorite stories is one of my friends was taking the quiz while he was playing D&D with a bunch of people on Zoom, and like everybody got Frog House except for him, and like he had his like headphones in, and they kept like chanting like Frog House, and like as he walked away they were like talking about how much better Frog House was than his house, like immediately like defending. He didn't even say anything, they were just like so into it, and that has been really fun to see and to hear.
That is the best, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's gonna be wars. We're gonna be battling. Now that we know we're in the Moth House for life. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
It's
I really
so fun.
love
Now,
it.
did you create like the quiz yourself? And
So I didn't come up with the questions for the quiz. Scholastic did all of that. I came up with the descriptions of each of the covens, obviously. And then I helped with visuals, like all the GIFs that you see on the site. I made those, like the moving images that are part of the quiz, the landing site where the quiz is. I made all of that. The actual quiz itself was Scholastic. So it was really a collaboration between us. And of course, Lizzie Marlin, who is the incredible illustrator who did not just the coven, but the crests and the character art, which, you know, has really helped Witchlings stand out, in my opinion. So it was definitely a very long collaborative process. By the time we launched the quiz, I was so excited because it really would take a lot of work to get it to where it was, and like troubleshooting the questions together, and the graphics and how it would embed onto my website, all of that. And Scholastic was really great with helping me.
Amazing.
Yeah, it really is just so cool. And I have to say, Claire, but like you are just so talented, and to see all of this come together, to see the team come together, I mean, like I feel proud of you. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm just like, yeah, it's so amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm honestly like, and you know, I've been a fan of yours for a while because I love Ride or Die podcast.
Oh, thank you.
And so, you know, to see all of this and just everybody surrounding you and this book, it just like, you deserve this. You've earned this, girl. So I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much. That's really nice of you to say. I appreciate that.
And just for our listeners who I'm sure by now are dying to do this quiz, it's just on your main website, isn't it? You can go.
Yeah, or they can go to witchlingsquiz.com, or they could go to my website, claribelortega.com, and there are like arrows pointing them in that direction.
Amazing.
But yeah, have a nice, easy URL, witchlingsquiz.com. They can just get to it through there.
Yeah.
So where did the concept for Witchlings come from for you?
So it was I think like most books, sort of like a combination of things. I was blessed by someone or something with the very first line. Like it just came to me in my head, like exactly how it is in the book. It was the night of the Black Moon ceremony, and the very last thing Seven Salazar wanted was to be a spare witch. That just came to me, fully formed. My brain was like, a gift. I've been making you suffer with depression for a while. So here is a nugget. And it just sort of went from there. It was one of those stories that sort of I already had in me to want to tell. But it unraveled in that way. So I had to ask myself the questions like, who is Seven Salazar? What is the Black Moon ceremony? What is a spare witch? I kind of already knew what a spare witch was in my mind. And the book was really a discovery of that first line, and answering those questions, and like when you answer those questions you find out what Witchlings is all about. So it was really interesting that it happened that way. And it was also inspired by the river towns in New York, which are a group of towns that are along the Hudson River, very beautiful. I live in one of them, and I've had a very complicated relationship with like housing and like feeling at home somewhere, both because of like moving around and because I am a diaspora kid. The question of like what makes a home and like where do you belong is very important to me. And so I drew from my surroundings and like places that I love to be and places that I felt at home and comfortable. And I made those places into a magical world. And Peekskill in New York is the inspiration for Ravenskill. The 12 towns is the world where it's set, and it's based on the river towns. The town where Thorn is from, Boggs Ferry, that's based on Dobbs Ferry, New York. So there are all these, like, especially people who live in this area are like, oh my gosh, I recognize all these things. So it was just a lot of that. Like, I'm actually doing a series of videos called Ravenskill in Real Life, where I'm going to sort of film all of the places that inspired the locations in Witchlings and sort of talk about them. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to have this like fountain of inspiration like all around me. Witchlings was also inspired by, trans kids and non-binary people. I am non-binary, and I think that feeling like you don't belong anywhere is a very common experience for people like me. And I wanted to write a fantasy book that was about being different than people around you, not being categorized in the same way that people around you are, and how you deal with that and how you make that something that is your own, and how it can still be beautiful even if it's unexpected.
That's so beautiful. I'm just your new fangirl right now. And I think that theme of like finding home, it's something that personally I've always gravitated towards in all media. And I think that it's just very human, isn't it, to find where we belong. And I think no matter the age group of a book, that is something that's that timeless thing in books that like I'll still go back and read Narnia because it still feels relevant, in some way. And yeah, I love that so much. I cannot wait to read this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been exciting. I definitely want to encourage people too. If you don't get the hardcover, or if you do, you can get the audiobook. Is so excellent. It's very, very good. And anyone who loves audiobooks, I definitely do recommend that. It has a little bonus feature at the end too by yours truly. So you might want to check it out.
Oh, I love audiobooks, so I'm
Yeah,
here for it.
me too. A lot of kids like to read along with audiobooks now, like the physical book with the audiobook. And I just think that's such a fun experience, especially when there's like music and like when the narrators are really good. It's just an incredible experience. And like for me, and like I think a lot of authors are like this too. It's hard to find time to like read when we have like all this other stuff going on. So like having audiobooks where like you're at the gym or you're like washing dishes is so helpful.
That is so true. And we've talked about that before as well, just like the pressure of trying to stay on top of reading sometimes can suck the joy out of it. And when you're writing so much, I find that like I cannot even stare at the little words on a page anymore sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you know, and it's difficult too. Like I get blurb requests literally weekly, and it's so hard because I wish I could blurb every single book, but I cannot because it's so much reading. And I told my agent, like, if there's any way you can get like an advanced audiobook, I'd be able to blurb a lot quicker. However, if it's not, then you know I have to put a cap on it.
Yeah,
that makes total sense. Yeah, it is. We talk about this often because, you know, they always tell you that's the advice you get is to read your genre, right? Is like to always fill the well, but sometimes it's just too much, and then you become overwhelmed with, you know, not the same story, but you need to pull from different things. So for the longest time, I've been trying to just read young adult fantasy because that's the genre I write, but like I just can't right now. So I just, you know, I need something else. I need some like cheesy Regency romance, Bridgerton, just give it all to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important for us because most of us are readers. Like this is why we love to write, right? And it's so difficult to take out that like fundamental building block of like what made us who we are. Suddenly, once we become that thing, it's like no more of that for you. And it's like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, it's the truth. It really is the truth. And you feel like you're missing out, you know, because we all did start as readers. Like that was the original love. And so to not do it almost feels like you almost feel guilty because you're like, you know, that was the thing.
Yeah.
And now it's the job, you know, at the end of the day. So I want to ask, like, let's take it back to where it all started for you.
Sure. So I've always loved to write. I've written since I was really little. I was one of those kids who, like, if it was your birthday, I would write like a story about like a dragon eating you and then like staple it together, make a cover. Here's your birthday gift. Like I loved doing stuff like that. But oddly enough, I never really considered being an author like for a really long time. And I think part of that was just like I didn't know the mechanisms behind it. I was like, I don't know. Like my favorite author was R.L. Stine when I was little. I was like, I don't know anything about how this old white man makes his books. I don't know. He writes them in his castle somewhere. I felt super unattainable for me as like a brown kid in the South Bronx, right? So I never really considered it as a career choice. I wanted to be on Broadway. That was what I was going to do. I knew Broadway, obsessed with Broadway. That was going to be my life, right? So that didn't happen, obviously. But when I went to when I it was time to go to college, I was like, maybe I do want to write. Like maybe this is what I want to do because I'm also very rebellious. So like if you tell me that I'm good at something, I'm going to not want to do that. And my whole life, people were always like, you're such a good writer, teachers, friends, everyone, because I wrote poetry and like songs and all of these things. But I just pushed back against it. And then when I got to college, I applied to the creative writing program, did not get in, super rejected. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe I will do journalism because I get to write and I love writing essays. So that kind of feels like along the same lines. So I did that and I really loved it. And then out of college, I was a reporter at the River Towns Enterprise, which is a newspaper that covers news in the river towns, which is like how I got to know the towns that Witchlings was based on. And that was really fun. You know, I was a local reporter. I covered like school board elections and like profiles on like people in town who there was one story about like the oldest man in the town, and it was really cool because like walking into his apartment was sort of like a time capsule. Like he had like these wooden skis and this like old Apple computer, and like he was like 100 and change, like 104. And I was like in my 20s. It was very surreal to meet someone who had been through so many things, but very, very cool. So that's sort of how I like honed my writing chops. It was like as a reporter. And then obviously Seven wants to be a reporter in Witchlings. It's for a reason. It's because that was my job. So I did that. And then I sort of, life stuff happened. My brother got really sick. And I left to Florida to be with my mom and to help her with him and everything. And during that time, it was very difficult for me. And he ended up passing away from cancer. He was very young. And after that happened, I had always dealt with like anxiety and like some depression, but like after that happened, it like really spiraled out of control. And I wasn't finding good coping mechanisms. My mechanism was ignore feeling so dizzy on the train platform that you almost fall, like, which is literally something that happened to me. And like the physical toll that ignoring it took on me was that one day I literally almost fell, and falling in the subway in New York City is not what you want. So when that happened, I was like, I have to do something. So I started going to therapy, which is really great. And that helped me so much. I did cognitive behavioral therapy, and it changed my life. And through it, I started to write. I was on a train one day. It's one of the tools that, my therapist told me was like, write stuff down, like write your feelings down, like write when you're feeling anxious and why. And one day I went to write my little, I'm feeling anxious, because I woke up on the commute into the city. I was working at CAA at the time. I left my reporting job. The story of this witch came to me, and like she had all sorts of problems, and she was depressed, and it was because she lost a loved one. And it was a manifestation of what I was going through. And that's how I started writing my first book. It was a YA, and I just went from there. I just became so obsessed with that story, and it took me a few years to write. But then after that, I tried to get an agent, did all sorts of things, did DV Pit once, left that agent once I signed with them, did it again, and found Susie. My YA didn't sell, the first book that I wrote. And then I wrote Ghost Squad. And Ghost Squad was also very much inspired by my brother, because we used to catch fireflies together. And in Dominican Republic, we say that fireflies are the souls of our lost loved ones watching over us. So it's apt that, this sort of tragedy that led me to my career is also the thing that made it. The story made me be able to do this for a living. And it was something that my brother loved to do. My brother loved to write, and he always pushed me to write. So it's really a legacy to him, and sort of like a way for him to continue to live, which is a promise that I made to him, that I would live my life for the both of us, because he didn't get to. So sorry, that got really heavy. But
no, don't apologize. That was beautiful.
But yeah, so once I wrote Ghost Squad and that sold, it was just sort of like, one thing after another. After that, just like working hard, writing, and working on my next project, and just being on perpetual deadline now.
Yeah. Wow. What a journey.
Yeah. You have been working. You've had book after book, and just all the stuff you do for the writing community, and it shows, it pays off, and we're watching, and thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing that, because I think for so many it's gonna resonate, because a lot of writers deal with so much and pull from that space. And it really can be a beautiful thing,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And very much like, I also live with generalized anxiety disorder and panic attacks, and I love talking about it more openly, and like and bringing light. Like, thank you for sharing that, because like it's something so many people don't realize, how high functioning you can still continue to go to work and be at a point where you can pass out on a train. Like, that's so relatable to me. I was doing flight attending for 3 years, and I would stand in that cabin and and I'd be having a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to faint in the middle of the aisle, and I just did it. And people aren't. So I just thank you for bringing that up, because it's very much something a lot of us deal with and just carry on until you can't. And I think the more we talk about it, and the more we get therapy, and the more we just make it a non-hidden thing, it's just a beautiful thing. And look what comes out of it. Because
I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I think people, because they can't see it happening, they think it's not there. But we've sort of been conditioned to hide it, right? And then we have to pay for it as well, like because of that conditioning, and it's a whole mess. But I think talking about it and being transparent about it and talking about it with each other is so important, so cathartic. And it's like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, other people have felt this. I'm not a weirdo, you know?
Totally. So much good stuff. And the other thing I wanted to come back to that you said was that your first book didn't sell. And you know what? It's again something that I always am going to come back to on this podcast, that people look at someone who's succeeding and think, oh, she's just talented. Oh, she just got lucky. No, she worked fucking hard. Non-stop. She failed more times than she succeeded, and she persisted. And she fucking dominated, because she was a badass who just kept going in the face of immense pressure. So
yes,
I see you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think it's important to talk about that, right? Because we see so much of the success in publishing, and of course people are gonna feel unhappy because they're comparing themselves, and all they see is like success story and like big, beautiful, bright, shiny things. And it's like, no, there's also like a lot of struggle with it. Like, everyone has had moments of struggle, no matter how like easily things have come for them. And there's always a layer that you're not seeing. So I'm always very transparent with like, yeah, my first book didn't sell. That's normal.
That's it. And then you just move on and you keep working and hustling, and something good is going to come out of it. And it obviously did for you.
For sure.
Really.
I think success in publishing is a matter of time. And whether or not sometimes it just takes a really long time, and that's hard, you know? And I don't blame anyone for being like, bye, because it can take a while. But if you keep going, keep working on your craft, keep immersing yourself in the world and learning things, it's going to happen for you eventually, for sure.
That's so beautiful. Honestly, I think this is just going to hit home with so many listeners. I mean, it is for me, so I appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Sorry if I'm breaking up and losing connection. It's just my internet is really bad in the country. But
oh, you're good. You're good.
It's good.
It's just life. It's just life with teenagers and Wi-Fi.
Oh, they're gonna get it later, aren't they?
Oh, I'm gonna get them as soon as this is done. I'm going.
They're gonna learn
today. Well, I see our time is dwindling down. What do you do on your off time when you're not hustling the books? What does Claribel do for fun?
Well, as you guys can see, I am all decked out in gaming gear. I am a giant video game aficionado. I love video games. I play video games all the time. I haven't had time to in the past like few months, literally, because of deadline. I just handed in Witchlings 2 this week, so super tired. But I love to obviously read, play video games. I love karaoke. I love a lot of stuff. I love watching cheesy 80s movies. I'm a big like true crime person. I love to, sit at night, drink some wine, and solve crimes with my dog. And anything like that, not so much doing stuff out in the outside world like I used to, but slowly getting back to that. But yeah, mostly just like video games, hanging out with friends, normal stuff like that.
I love it. That sounds like a book, honestly. Solving true crime with your dog. I think that could be something for you.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You never know. I'm known for putting animals in my books, so.
I love it. Can you tell our listeners where to find you if they don't already know you? Of course they do, but just in case.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Claribel_Ortega. My website's claribelortega.com. And yeah, I'm all over the internet all the time. So you can just find me everywhere.
Well, it's been just wonderful having you on today. I see I don't know where that time went, but we're down to a minute. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor having you on. And yeah, all the luck, all the success. You don't need luck. You're a hard worker. I don't even know why
I need a little bit of luck.
anymore.
You still need luck. Publishing, you still need luck. Everybody works hard. So thank you for having me on. This was a really fun chat. I had a great time. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Honestly, all the best to you. I can't wait to read this damn book.
Thank you. I hope you like it.
I already know I will. So thank you.
Totally. I'm committed now that I'm in Moss Coven.
Well, yeah.
It's a done deal.
Gotta represent.
Yeah, we have to stick together. All right. Well, Clarabel, thank you again, and get some rest, girl, because
more some pasta and go to sleep.
I was gonna say 25 TikToks. I feel like stressed after one reel. I'm like need to lay down after making one reel.
It was more like 10, but it was still a lot.
Those things take time. They take time.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right.
Thank you
bye,
again.
Clarabel. Thank you.